How's it going, guys and girls? This is YouTube sensation James Cho with my very first of many book reviews. Today I will be dishing my thoughts on Ernest Hemingway's A Farewell to Arms. The title can be easily misunderstood. It's not about these kinds of arms, but these kinds of arms. This book isn't just about a man literally saying farewell to his arms, but instead is about a man and his experience during the time of a war. To be more specific, A Farewell to Arms follows the story of an American man named Frederick Henry who serves in the Italian army during World War I. He finds himself in the company of Catherine Barclay, and a huge portion of the book is dedicated to the development of their relationship. And this is part of what makes A Farewell to Arms a truly special book. Hemingway, who strangely looks like Charlie Sheen, portrays war not through the war itself, but rather through the development and reactions of the characters. In fact, there are actually very few war scenes detailed in the novel, but somehow the book manages to pull off the drama and tension and intensity of war without actually portraying extended violent scenes. Instead of feeling the cruelty of war by seeing dead bodies on the ground, we feel it through the dialogue of the characters and their detachment and resentment to the war. This is a fresh and ingenious way of telling a war story, and the desolation and feelings of emptiness are masterfully portrayed. Using Frederick Henry as a first-person narrator is a perfect way of telling the story. Through Henry's emotions, we can feel the meaninglessness and the lack of commitment one can have when thrown into a war. A Farewell to Arms is a refreshing twist to the typical war story where the protagonist is patriotic, loves his country, and will sacrifice himself for the sake of the world. This book is nothing like that at all. Frederick is just trying to get by. He doesn't see the purpose in the war, yet somehow he doesn't seem like a coward at all. And that's just the kind of war book this is. It doesn't celebrate those who dedicate their lives or get a red badge of courage. In fact, those who are dedicated to the war actually suffer a lot more than those who don't. This is overall an extremely unique perspective on war that makes the book definitely a must-read. But there are so many layers behind this book than just being a different take on war. However, in order to peel into these layers, I'll need to get into the spoilers. So spoiler alert, for those who don't want specific plot details, please click out of the video now. But before you click, let's smash that like button. Anyways, getting into the spoilers, like I said before, a big component of the book is the love story between Catherine and Henry. Catherine recently suffered the loss of her old lover since he died in the war, and Henry came in and seduced her with a kiss that would jumpstart their love story. Now I put quotes around love story because it's not actually authentic love, at least in the beginning. Frederick himself admits that when he said, "I love you," to Catherine, he didn't actually mean it. When we segue into part 2 of the book, Henry gets hurt from the war and finds himself in a hospital in the company of Catherine. This is where their love develops and becomes genuine, when they are both away from the war. Now they have a cutesy love story where they just can't seem to get enough of each other, and in fact they prefer the sole attention from each other than in the company of others. Like for real, Catherine insisted that they leave a horse race just so she can have alone time with her man. But this cringe-worthy romance actually plays a large role into a major theme of A Farewell to Arms. The world is cruel and meaningless, and we as humans search for meaning on our own. We search for comfort in a senseless environment, and oftentimes it manifests itself in the form of love. But the world truly is meaningless because this comfort of love is only temporary. To make a long story short, Catherine becomes pregnant with Frederick's child and ends up dying from child labor. And you would think Frederick would be a complete mess after losing the love of his life and child, right? Wrong. Frederick shows absolutely no emotion whatsoever. And no, Frederick is not a robot. He's just an expression of Ernest Hemingway's existentialism beliefs. This lack of emotion emphasizes the fact that the world truly is meaningless. There's no purpose, it's cruel, it's a terrible place to live in. This is an example of how excellent Hemingway controls tone and mood throughout the story to portray themes and major plot points. A consequence of this is the book can feel pretty unrealistic at times because the tone of the book does not correlate with the events that are occurring. But it's this contrast that truly brings out Hemingway's beliefs he is trying to convey. A Farewell to Arms does feel like Hemingway's imagined world, with all the characters following his beliefs. There's even a priest who becomes the laughingstock of the novel, with all the other characters roasting him, expressing their lack of religion. Hemingway is clearly not a strong believer in religion, and it clearly shows in this novel. I could see some not liking Hemingway's intense incorporation of his beliefs into the book because it just feels so unrealistic at times, but you can't blame the guy for wanting to get his thoughts out there, and he does it so well. One other complaint I have with the book is the lack of character depth. Even with the main protagonist, all the characters remain relatively static because of their passiveness in the events of the war. One could argue that Frederick heavily developed due to his increasing disdain towards war, but he along with all the other characters were dissident towards the war throughout the entire novel. Catherine is kind of a waste of a character who seems to be just there for the sake of giving Frederick comfort. She doesn't seem likable at all. Her dialogue is plain And never does she do anything that makes her seem appealing or makes the audience appreciate her more than just her basic role as Frederick's lover. But perhaps that's the point. The characters have no depth because they don't matter. They're all just mere subjects to the cruelty of a meaningless world. It really just depends on how you view this novel. One can say that the unconventional storytelling is genius because it fits in with the overall theme of existentialism, but others can say that there's no excuse for Hemingway's lack of proper storytelling. I tend to agree with the former. You have to appreciate that Hemingway manipulated every aspect of his book, the diction, the tone, the syntax, the plot, to fit in perfectly with his theme of meaninglessness. There are so many layers to this book that just come together to convey a message in such a refreshing form of storytelling that makes this book truly one of a kind and a staple to all libraries. Whether or not you agree with Hemingway's philosophies, I would definitely recommend this novel to anyone age 17 and above. I'm going to give A Farewell to Arms an A-. If you like this video, go ahead and comment, subscribe, and smash that like button.